Hello, welcome back to the Wisdom Journey. We are covering chapter 2 today. So glad that you can join us, and let's get started. Chapter 2, we're going to discuss what are the requirements for wisdom, what are the results of wisdom, temptations, and the transformative nature of wisdom. So what are the requirements of wisdom? So let's get to the text. Today I am using, what am I going to read off of? The New International Version. So chapter 2, and I'll be jumping around, all right? So chapter 2, my son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding, indeed, if you call out for insight and cry out loud for understanding, and if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find knowledge of God, for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. So I'm going to pause there. So what are the requirements for wisdom? So first, you have to receive the words. You have to receive the law of God. You have to receive wisdom. So the scripture says, verse 1, my son, accept my words. So wisdom can come at you, and if you go like this, right, that's it. That's it for the interaction. That's it for the transaction. So you have to receive it, all right? Then it says you have to store it. So you receive it, and then you store it within you. So there's some activity there. The first one, accepting it, it's a little passive. It increases. You have to store it within you. And then you have to turn your ear. So you actually have to say like, huh? What? So you're getting closer. You're doing more. The intensity of dealing with wisdom increases. So you're turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding. So we're getting again more involved. And then the intensity increases when it says, indeed, if you call out for insight and cry out loud for understanding. So you have to actually call out for it. Where are you, wisdom? Where are you? Are you here? Are you here? So it intensifies. So initially it's just like, hey, wisdom, hi, I'm here. I'll accept you. And then it starts intensifying, and you start seeking it out, inclining your ear. To look for it as hidden treasure. So when you look for hidden treasure, that's work. So you actually have to look around and uncover things. And so now you're working to search for wisdom. So when you pursue wisdom, there has to be, there's a transaction, right? Transaction has to be something that you leave behind. It's going to have to cost you something. You have two career opportunities. One, you know, is the best opportunity. You understand that it's going to help you out. The other one is just a more fun opportunity. So you're going to have to make a decision. So wisdom is not something that you just sort of think about, right? Oh, wisdom, I want wisdom. You are going to have to make actions, take actions, say no, say yes. It might cost you time. It might cost you relationships. You might have to leave relationships. Different careers. So there definitely is decisions that you have to make. You're going to have to feel it in your body that you are deciding to take that path of wisdom, and you're going to have to feel some sort of loss. It's a temporary loss, because wisdom has the boomerang effect that when you give to wisdom, when you decide to invest your energy, your time, like what you're doing now, you're investing, and that's going to come back to you, and it's going to come back to you in a multiplied way, right? That's how God works. That's how, you know, the biblical concepts of what is it, sowing and harvesting is always comes back to you in a multiplied way. So you have to leave a career for the sake of wisdom, you're going to get a better career. You have to leave a group of friends, you're going to find better friends that are going to enrich your lives. So there's definitely has to be a transaction. The other thing about when you start pursuing wisdom is that now all of a sudden you're going to start seeing opportunities for wisdom growth everywhere. So you guys know the concept that sometimes you have no idea of certain things in your life. I have something silly, like say Say there's, you didn't know there's all these oak trees around your house, right? And somebody says, oh, we have an oak tree. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I do. Oh, there's an oak tree over there. And there's no, and all of a sudden you're seeing oak trees everywhere. So that is the same thing with wisdom. Once you accept wisdom and you say, hey, I want to make the transaction, I'm going to accept you, I'm going to put you in my heart, you start seeing the opportunities for wisdom all over the place. People wanting to share their insight with you, inviting you to maybe conferences, giving you books, your brain is going to be more flexible to take in, to study. So the pursuit itself of wisdom has so much benefits, and it will transform your perspective. So even just pursuing wisdom is worth it. All right, so that was the requirements for wisdom. So what are the results of wisdom, right? So the requirements, like, if you do this, then what, right? If we pursue wisdom, then what? So I'm going to look at verse 5 for our then. We have two then. Verse 5, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. So you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. I mean, this God is omniscient, omnipresent, all-knowing. Did I get them all? Okay. And he says that we will find that knowledge, right? So why wouldn't we want to pursue? We find his knowledge. The Lord gives wisdom, comes from his mouth. So what comes out of people's mouth are words. What comes out of God's word is Christ. Christ is the word, right? And so here we have it, right? He gives us his knowledge. He gives us wisdom from his mouth, comes understanding. And when we take it in, it will make us upright. It will protect us. It would guard us, protect us. Let me see. Look at the whole verse here. It would keep us from evil. So we get protection, we get direction in our lives. Now, when we're talking about wisdom, like I said, there has to be interaction with wisdom. Wisdom is not just a concept here, right? You've got to deal with all of this. So wisdom will actually change you. So let's see, verse 10. Okay, so for wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. So wisdom will enter your heart. So when wisdom enters your heart, you cannot stay the same. Okay, and anytime you deal with the heart, right, whether it's something sad or something happy, it changes you. Wisdom is a transformative force. We have to let it soak into our hearts, and then it says also soak into our souls. So it's not just something cerebral. And I used to think about in the past, I used to love reading and just filling up my brain with knowledge. There was nothing here and here. So when you encounter wisdom, you must change. So do you feel that change with the things that you are taking in? Of course, it has to be a change for good, right? It's a transformative force changing us to make better decisions, again, so we can impact our family, our friends, our world. So that interaction with wisdom must change us. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. You got to feel it in a spiritual way. Okay, so moving on. So I'm going to go through verse 16. Wisdom will save you also from the adulterous woman, from the wayward woman with her seductive words, who has left the partner of her youth and ignored the covenant she made before God. Surely her house leads to death, and her path to spirits of the dead. None who go to her return or attain the path of life. Okay, so this is really interesting. And I really thought about, like, wow, how am I going to tackle this? So we just have to tackle it. We are humans. God created us with certain desires. And so sex is one of those desires. Sex under the covenant of marriage, like God designed, is a beautiful thing. Sex outside of the covenant of marriage is a destructive force. It destroys you. It destroys everybody around, family, communities. It hurts so many people, right? So King Solomon, just, it was one of his weaknesses for women, talks a lot about this. So we're going to talk about it, okay? King Solomon uses, because he's a man, so he makes a lot of references to his weakness, right? The woman, the adulterous woman, right? But for women, we just replace it, right? We replace it with, hey, the adulterous men. So we don't have to get offended, because sometimes women get offended, like, hey, why are they just talking about the women? Why are we women? Okay, no, the book is for everyone. So you replace it with your weakness, right? Whatever your weakness is, hey, it's a seductive woman, it's a seductive man. And the same thing goes for the personification of wisdom. Sometimes there's like this notion like, oh, women are wise, but King Solomon doesn't believe that men are wise. So it's just a tool to make the writing engaging. Both men and women can be wise. Both men and women can deal with sexual immorality, temptations. All right. So let's move on. Talking about temptations. Temptation is not a sin. Jesus Christ dealt with temptation. We're going to be dealing with temptations regarding to sexual immorality, and we have to be ready for it. So instead of kind of shying away, like, oh, I don't want to talk about that, let's embrace it. If not for us, or so we can help our family and friends that are dealing with that. So that's another thing in regards to talking about sexual morality. Some veteran Christians, kind of believe like, hey, I'm above that. I'm married. I don't have to deal with that, and they forget about the book of Proverbs. They see the book of Proverbs like it's for the young, dumb, naive folks. But we've been around long enough to know that some very strong, wonderful men of God and women of God have failed. They have destroyed their families, their businesses, all sorts of things, because they forgot to continue reading the book of Proverbs and this belief that they were above those temptations, and they failed because of those temptations. So let's not think that we're above that. Let's say, hey, we can at any time fall. So let me be ready for that temptation. What can I do to be ready for that temptation? And just continually be reading the book of Proverbs. Once or twice a year is fine, but let's not think that we're above sexual morality. So throughout the rest of the Proverbs, we're going to reference it. So I just wanted to kind of lay that foundation, right? That we deal with temptations, and let's embrace it, and let's learn how to overcome them, how we can be prepared for them. All right. So that was chapter 2. Thank you for staying with me, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. God bless you. Bye-bye.